And welcome back to Who Would Win? Wow, I was about to say the person's name before I said the video. Welcome back to Who Would Win, the week of Who Would Win. This one comes to us from Franklin Jarrett, who asked the question, who would win a fight? Mark Grayson, also known as Invincible, versus Brandon Breyer, I believe it's Brandon Breyer, a.k.a. Brightburn from the movie Brightburn. These are basically two different, not super... Brightburn's a Superman knockoff. Invincible's not even a Superman clone. That'd be Omni-Man. But in essence, a Viltrumite is basically a alternate version of a Kryptonian from a different comic universe. But yeah, Mark Grayson grew up on the planet Earth with his human mother and his super Viltrumite dad till his powers started to show, and then his dad wanted him to become a hero. I can't remember if he wanted to be a hero or if his dad wanted. I can't remember. Point being, he became the hero Invincible. It was then revealed that the Viltrumites come, conquer, and destroy after a while. And Mark's like, no, stop it, Dad. And Dad's like, that's adorable. Whoa, think, Mark. And then the memeiest of memes happened. Later on, his dad would come back. They would reconcile, and they would lead Earth into a pretty good age. He would grow stronger, and basically, the spoilers for the comic, he would grow on to be like a very prominent figure throughout the rest of the comic in terms of power, authority, all that. So Brandon Breyer, on the other hand, it really is truly the classic Superman story. An alien being lands in, was it Kansas in the Brightburn movie? I can't remember if it actually was Kansas, but anyway, he lands in a rural part of the country, grows up with decent eyes, but ultimately has this calling called towards a ship, and it's revealed that he has superpowers. But it's actually also revealed that his race is actually kind of evil, and that he goes around on a killing spree, and ultimately he even kills his folks. Now in the movie, he did have a weakness that the metal from made ship up could possibly be used to hurt him. But as it stands, there was no clear-cut weakness given for Brandon. Physically speaking, all the abilities wise, he pretty much has standard Superman abilities, including super strength, durability, speed, flight, heat vision, the whole shebang. But it's all wrapped up in the package of this kid who isn't necessarily the most tactical, isn't the most mature, or any of that. Whereas Mark, even if we're just looking by the beginning of the series, is already a kid in his mid-teens already. He's actually matured to a certain degree, actually has a moral compass, has a level of responsibility, and knows responsibility. He has all the standard powers a Viltrumite has, which is essentially most of Superman's standard powers. He could create shockwaves with his hands if he clapped real hard. He's got super strength, durability, flight. Viltrumites do lack the ability, though, for heat to generate heat from their eyes like Superman does. In fact, this solar plasma is actually a weakness of theirs. They also have enhanced recovery time. And much like a Saiyan, they actually do get stronger after coming back from a fight. Also, as they get older, because they live for thousands of years, they get stronger as they get older, too. So the question is, who would win ultimately in a fight here? Now, I'm gonna spoil the lead right now. If we're talking about the comic version of Mark at the end of his life, or at the end of the comic, well then, yes, that version is going to just whip Brightburn's ass. But let's look at it more like season 1 from the anime, or animated series. Let's look at that Mark and see how strong he basically is, how he kind of stacks up to Brightburn. So let's do what I sometimes do and kind of just do a comparative analysis of their stats, abilities, and then kind of see who would ultimately clash outright in a battle, or win outright in a battle. We never really got to see a true strength feat from Brandon, as far as I know. What is this? Hold on, Brightburn's strength. I'm gonna just look that up because I can't recall the movie very well. Brightburn strength. Oops, yeah, strength feat. Let's go with. There we go. Strength. How strong was he? Despite being a total body much stronger than the average man, possesses immense strength, being able to lift objects as heavy and large as a pickup truck and crush stone and metal with almost instantly in his hands. Most likely, a pickup truck was not the limitations of his strength. He could probably do more, but he most likely had a good cap off. Like, he was not going to be able to probably lift like a super tanker at any time soon. He wasn't that strong. He was still a kid. If I remember correctly of what some of the strongest things we saw Mark do, I think they're probably in the even spot. They're roughly equal to each other in terms of strength. So I'll call that a wash. Speed-wise, Mark actually isn't that fast in the season 1. I mean, he can fly fast enough at good traveling speeds, but we literally see Brightburn literally just disappear almost like the Flash. And we haven't seen Mark illustrate speeds of that level. We see a couple individuals in season 1 do that, including Omni-Man himself, who literally moved so fast he ignited the atmosphere of a planet. So we know Mark can eventually get to that speed or higher eventually, but in season 1 he's not that fast. And then there's the Flash knockoff, I can't remember, who moved so fast, and has such a fast perception of everything. Time was slow, everything else was slower. The conversation he was having, I think, with his girlfriend, to him felt like it was taking hours to have. But he was used to it. So in terms of speed, I actually got to give that one to Brightburn. I'm going to give that one to Brandon. Then you go into durability. This one is a tough one because we never see Brandon get hurt by anything. We never see Brightburn hurt by anything because it's the idea of what if Superman was real and he was this little kid and this monster and destroyed thing and we had nothing to do. What if that happened? So it's difficult to say how durable he really is because we just don't have a clear idea of what he can take. We know, though, he can take a shot. We know he can take a firearm to the head. Let me see here. Because his dad tried to put him down and failed. But, one second here. Durability. Durability. There we go. Let's see here. Brightburn. Yeah, right. That's not... But, yeah, we know he can take, a gunshot to the head. Although he still felt the shot in the recoil and all that. He still recoiled from it. But it didn't really harm it at all. Whereas Mark can actually take bullet fire without too much difficulty, even higher caliber rounds than what Brandon's dad did to him. He also regularly traded blows with superpower beings. Got messed up a little bit from it, certainly, but it took a decent hit to put him down. When I've only seen bits and pieces of the show, so I'm just going off what I remember. There was a moment in a skyscraper where there was a villain and he brought these villains in and Mark and the gang got wrecked, but then Mark went ham on all of them, really was going hard on it and was beating them until Battle Beast, who I can't wait to do a video with him. Battle Beast is kind of the Kenpachi of the Omni-Man world, of that world, Invincible world. Battle Beast is kind of just awesome. If you combine a Johnny from Magic Alley with Kenpachi from Bleach, it's kind of Battle Beast, honestly. But then Battle Beast came in and just boom, put him right in the ground. It was done. The bell rung. It got called the night. Again, the problem with judging durability and endurance is we have no concept of how durable Brandon actually is. We have an idea. He can take gunfire, no problem, but there's nothing else that's really, you could hit him with a baseball bat. We know that would break against him. What if he got actually legitimately hit by a car or caught in a very large explosion? Or what if he traded blows with a superhuman individual? Now that's a question. Now you got a scenario that could actually give us a good gauge of how durable he is. So on that grounds alone, because we don't know how durable it is, we know he at least recoiled from a gunshot from a hunting rifle, not a small caliber, but not a 50 cal or anything like that. That I'm gonna give the edge in durability to Brightburn. So right now, Brandon's got the speed advantage. They're more or less equal. Maybe Mark having a slight edge in strength, and then you have the durability going to Mark along with endurance. They're both capable of flight, so that's irrelevant. Then you would go on to extra abilities. This is where Brandon has Mark completely outclassed because not only does he have heat vision, whereas Mark doesn't, excess heat is actually a weakness of Viltrumites. Granted, they need long-term exposure, like dipping into a sun, for example, or just being hit by a laser for continuous amounts of time. But that is a weakness he has. Plus, we can assume also, we know his senses are also somewhat enhanced as well. If I'm not mistaken, he also has X-ray vision. I can't remember if he had anything like a super breath or like a clap and you cause a shockwave kind of ability. I wouldn't be surprised if he did. So I have to give overall special abilities to Brandon there. But there is one X factor here that we need to bring up, and that is intelligence, battle experience, maturity. And this is where Mark has the complete edge over Brandon. He's more mature. He's older. He actually has super parental figures and super peers to, learn from and grow from. And he regularly fights super-powered beings. Whereas Brandon is just a kid. He's just a 12-year-old kid. He's probably got the ego of a 12-year-old kid, thinking he's invincible, which, to be fair, in his world, he kind of is. So he's never had to fight against anything before. So the edges are speed and special abilities for Brandon, and strength is more or less equal, give or take. Whereas durability and experience go to Mark on that regard. So who wins out of this? If they're both relatively equal in strength, does skill beat special ability, or does durability outlast speed? Let's say, due to shenanigans, that Mark ends up in the Brightburn universe. Or actually, no, Brightburn it makes more sense that Brightburn would end up in the Invincible universe. Just because he's he's just a kid, isn't even aware there are actually superhuman beings in this world. So he just does his Brightburn thing, starts running amok. Well, actual supers start showing up, and at first, he's laying waste. He's confused, like, these guys have abilities too? Interesting, I wonder how tough they are. And he's laying waste to, like, the weaker ones. That's when Invincible Mark shows up. Remember, we're doing Season 1 Mark at his peak for Season 1. So probably right before the end of episode, 10? Where he basically got his teeth kicked in by his dad, literally. Which, by the way, did they give him new teeth, or did he just grow new teeth back? I can't remember. But anyway, you, Dad, I'd still have you. But anyway, Invincible's like, who are you? And Brandon's not answering. And I say, who are you? What are you doing? And Brandon just fires lasers out of his eyes. Invincible's got to get out. All right, fine. And he comes in and just actually hits Brandon dead on, because Brandon wasn't expecting to actually get hurt or feel it that much. And Brandon goes straight through some buildings, and he actually gets up, and he's jarred. He's freaked out a little bit. Like, he's angry too, but like he's never met someone as strong as him. Like, he is the devil in his world. He's God. No one challenges him in his world. So he just comes in, flies again, because he's got the speed advantage. He now puts Mark through a building, but Mark comes in again, and now they're going toe to toe. Except Mark's got better combat experience. So when he throws a punch, Mark dodges, boom, hits him again, boom, hits him again, and starts basically kind of like just doing duck, weave, boom, duck, weave, gut, punch. And eventually it gets to the point where Brandon, who's now starting to actually hurt and be in pain and tire, and is not liking that feeling at all, just unloads on Mark. It's just, and basically now it's like a war of just, Mark's just getting burnt, and just, and it's like, and finally Mark finally sees his friends on the ground, near, like, almost dead. One of them's probably missing an arm or something like that. Granted, in the Invincible world, they could probably reattach that thing. But he sees, like, Robot is, like, near destroyed. Monster Girl's in pain. And, like, she's got burns all over her body. And Mark's just like, he just comes in, just twists, and just comes in, just finally, just boom, just knocks the straight wind, breaks his bones, breaks his ribs out of Brandon, who's now can't even scream in pain. He's just like, and Mark just puts him into the Grinch craters of boom, and just and Brightburn, like, he takes off, and he just realizes, you're just a kid. And Brightburn tries to, like, just put his laser on, that's enough, and just knocks his ass clear out. Now, because it's the Invincible world, they would have means of keeping him incarcerated, definitely. Oh, no doubt about it, they would. Because he's not as strong as someone like a Superman or an Omni-Man, or in this case, Mark, as I just gave him the win. But he's still dangerous nonetheless. Ultimately, I would give Mark the win because he does have durability and, even more importantly, the experience advantage. He has the durability to outlast most of what Brightburn can throw at him. Especially because we've seen just all the things he can survive between the superhumans, having a train literally crash into him, and he was generally fine. Being cratered into the ground. Granted, going up against a supremely powerful superhuman individual who was able to actually, just completely overwhelm him, he stood no chance. But Brandon's not that powerful. And the fact is, they're relatively equal in strength. Mark might have a little bit of an edge, but we just don't have a clear gauge of what Brandon's limitations are. So I call that a wash, basically. So the fact is, they're going to be able to trade equal blows with each other. The problem is that Mark can take the hit better than Brandon ultimately can. He's just older, his body's more developed, and he's just a better fighter. So, is there any way for Brandon to win? Sure, if he gets a strong enough hit initially on Mark, maybe putting a hole through him with a late heat vision. But the problem is his heat vision, as far as I could tell, while it would be great for just cutting normal people in half, probably wouldn't just slice him in half and put a hole straight through him. It would take a while. And by the end of it, his arms would be burnt to hell. It might even be some bone exposing, but it would eventually heal up. But I guess it's not impossible for him to get a win, but I think the majority of this would go to Mark Grayson, a.k.a. Invincible. This is just my opinion, though. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. As always, if you want to review something, put in the comments below. Until then, I'll see you folks next time.